2023 has a huge list of movies that me and my fellow movie-loving homies cannot miss this year, so I'm going to be telling you your must-see movies of 2023 in order of release date because this movie year is so stacked. There's almost 2 blockbusters coming out per month this entire year. Starting with Cocaine Bear releasing on February 24th, this movie is based off of true events and could be hilariously campy and gory and have a lot of really awesome memes that come from this movie. And since February is usually a shitbox for anything releasing anyway, I think this is just a fun time at the movies and a must-see for any movie-loving horror fan. And if you want to see Ray Liotta in one of his last performances, I think this is a really good one to send him off. Even if this movie turns out bad, it'll be a fun time at the theater, no doubt. March is stacked with movies this year, and that's when my birthday is, so I really enjoy watching a lot of awesome movies kick off the summer movie season, starting off with Creed on March 3rd. Michael B. Jordan is starring and directing in the 3rd installment of the Creed franchise with Jonathan Majors as his antagonist, and as we know right now, Jonathan Majors is blowing up, and with Ant-Man and the Wasp coming out in February, which is not a must-see movie of the list, unfortunately, but Jonathan Majors is definitely one to look out for because he's going to be blowing up real soon. I think this movie has the potential for very strong storytelling and showing a lot more from Adonis's past, even though we don't have Rocky in this movie. But just based off the trailers and what we've seen so far, it looks like it's going to be an awesome boxing movie that makes you want to hit the gym right after you give up on your New Year's resolutions. Then the next weekend on March 10th, we have Scream Roman numeral 6 that takes the story to New York City. Now, I've actually been sleeping on the Scream franchise because I've never seen it before. I have nothing against it, and it looks really awesome, especially this new trailer that dropped. But with the explosion of Jenna Ortega with Wednesday and everything going on with the Scream franchise right now, I think this movie has the potential to blow up at the box office. I do know that now that they're in a new location, trying to guess the killer will probably be a lot more difficult and more enjoyable for the viewer experience. I think if you're a Scream fan, this is a must-see, but if you just are itching for some horror after Cocaine Bear, I think Scream 6 is going to get you going, and I do consider Scream 5 Scream Roman numeral 5 now, even though it's not technically in the promotional material. On to March 17th, 65 releases starring Adam Driver as an astronaut that lands in the year 65 million BC with a bunch of savage dinosaurs trying to kill him. It'll be nice to see some dinosaurs in a different franchise for once, and sending the future to the past to fight dinosaurs instead of bringing dinosaurs to the present day seems like a very awesome twist on what we've seen very many times before. Laser rifles and futuristic weapons versus T-Rexes is exactly what I want to see when I go to the movie theater. Closing out March is one of my most anticipated movies of 2023, and that would be John Wick Chapter 4 releasing on March 24th. Keanu Reeves is rocking nunchucks and fighting Donnie Yen, so you already know this movie is going to have some of the best action sequences of the franchise. I do think this should be the resolution to the franchise though, because we're tiptoeing into that really bad movie territory, and I want it to end on a bang with guns being shot and nunchucks being chucked. Probably one of the biggest movies of 2023 will come out in April, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and it has the potential to blow up the franchise with spin-offs and sequels and a crazy amount of world-building video games if they wanted to go that route. It looks like it has great animation and super colorful and awesome, which is exactly what I would expect from a Mario movie, and it's a lot better than the live-action monstrosity that we did happen to get in the 90s. I think all the references that this movie is going to have, such as Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, and Luigi's Haunted Mansion, we do have the potential to have a really awesome Mario movie on our hands here. I'm holding off judgment on Chris Pratt's voice of Mario until I actually see the movie, but it seems like this is made with a lot of love and care, and a must-see movie for any Mario fan, and a must-see movie on the big screen. I do think Mario is going to run the box office all through April, but there is Evil Dead Rise coming out April 21st that I'm very excited for. As a fan of the Evil Dead franchise, I cannot wait to see what the soft reboot has in store since we're not at a cabin in the woods. I am a little sad that Bruce Campbell is not starring in it, but he is producing it. From what we see in the trailer, it looks like the mom is being possessed by the Necronomicon, and the children are trying to survive their apartment while their mom is doing very gruesome and evil things. I do think this movie would perform a little better with an October release date, but I'm excited to see Evil Dead back on the big screen no matter what. Even though I didn't mention Ant-Man 3 back in February, I am going to mention Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 coming out May 5th because it is the final movie with James Gunn directing and the team as we know it being together. The trailer seems hilarious but also has some dark undertones. There's definitely going to be a Guardian character that dies, and it's going to be very heartfelt, but also just a great send-off for James Gunn, who's had this idea in his head for a very long time. So to see that come to fruition, and to see how that could kind of play into how he sets up the new DC universe that he's in charge of, I think there's a lot riding on this movie for our credibility of James Gunn, and if the MCU can be back on track after Ant-Man. I'm also very interested to see how Gamora gets incorporated back into the team and if she can fall back in love with Star-Lord by the end of the movie. Marvel needs a few bangers because they've been a little lackluster in Phase 4. Say what you want about this next franchise, but after taking a car to space, I am buckled in on May 19th for Fast X. This is part 1 of the Fast and Furious finale, which means that they could literally go anywhere from here. If they've already gone to space, for all we know, it's going to be dimension hopping. We haven't seen a trailer yet, but I'm almost guaranteeing you it will be one of the wildest looking trailers we've ever seen from the Fast and Furious franchise. No matter what though, there's always going to be awesome car stunts, awesome chase sequences, and some badass action, so I'm always ready for a Fast and Furious movie. They're doubling down as Charlize Theron as the villain of this franchise, and they're somehow bringing back Gal Gadot. At this point, these characters can die and come back to life, and we're just living in a super meta Fast and Furious world. And since it is a part 1 of the finale, you know it's going to end on a crazy cliffhanger. So I think it's going to be a must-see movie of 2023, especially because it's probably going to make $1 bajillion. So prepare for a lot of drama, but most importantly, family. When you have Spider-Man in the title of your movie, it's automatically a must-see movie of that year. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse releases on June 2nd and follows Miles and Gwen traveling the Spider-Verse and meeting a bunch of new Spider people. And I think what I'm most excited for in this movie is taking the quote, "With great power comes great responsibility," and changing that to fit the narrative of each different Spider person and what they're trying to do. I think it's going to be a really awesome exploration of the characters, and I think it will actually give a lot more depth and meaning to what it means to be Spider-Man that the first one already set up so well. The first one has a really soft spot in my heart because I really did love that movie, and I'm a little worried that this could go a little overboard with all the Spider people, but I have faith that it is going to be a great adaptation and sequel to the first one. And then the next week after you watch Spider-Man, you're going to watch Transformers Rise of the Beast, releasing on June 9th. I really loved Bumblebee and the soft reboot of the franchise that came with it, introducing the characters from the old series like RC and Mirage and even Optimus Primal from the Beast Wars. I think it'll be a really awesome sequel to go forward with this franchise. It does have the potential to be complete ass, but at this point, Transformers movies are either going to be ass with a lot of action, or it's going to be pretty good with a lot of action. So if you're trying to have a lot of awesome action and car chase sequences, I think this is going to be the movie for you. And then finally, on June 16th, we're going to see The Flash. This movie has been delayed and had a whole bunch of drama with Ezra Miller, and at this point, I just want to see why they want to release it so badly. Also, with the news that James Gunn is kind of restarting the DC Universe, I'm interested to see how this movie takes the DCEU and how that could potentially kick off the new DC Universe, or if this movie is just going to be a giant shit pile and the only reason they're releasing it is because they've already spent too much money, or if Michael Keaton Batman being in the movie is alone the nostalgia factor that they think this movie could make $1 bajillion, which it could. I do have low expectations for this movie, especially knowing that it doesn't really mean anything moving forward, but there could be a few twists and turns, and since this is the first Flash movie, I do want it to be good. After Top Gun Maverick and Tom Cruise proving that he is the last action movie star, I am so excited on July 14th for Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. I could see this being one of Tom Cruise's best action movies, and since they are filming Part 1 and Part 2 back to back, and this is the finale of the Mission Impossible franchise, I think we have a lot of really awesome stuff coming our way. I think this is going to be a box office smash, especially with the word of mouth, and since it is a Part 1 similar to Fast X, the cliffhanger at the end of this movie could have someone dying that's very important, such as Benji, and I would really be upset if Benji died, but I think that would just make Part 2 that much more enjoyable. Never doubt Tom Cruise when it comes to action movies. When Christopher Nolan is making a new movie, you have to go to the theater to see it, especially when he's trying to drop real nukes in Oppenheimer, releasing on July 21st. This movie looks dramatic as hell and has Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, Emily Blunt, and freaking Josh Peck. Backing away from crazy sci-fi concepts like Tenet, with a focus on tension and real emotional weight that comes with creating and detonating an atomic bomb, this could be the thrill ride that keeps you on the edge of your seat and one of Christopher Nolan's best films. There is a movie set to release the same day as Oppenheimer, which you would have to be crazy to go up against Nolan at the box office weekend. It is Barbie, starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these movies actually changed their release date because they don't want to battle each other, but I do think people are underestimating the appeal of Barbie and what that meant on the culture, so I think there will be a lot of people going to see Barbie when it releases, especially after that crazy new trailer. With Oppenheimer's really dark and dramatic background versus Barbie's very bright and stylistic choices, I think this will be a really fun weekend at the movies to kind of go like back to back. So if they don't move, I think it'll just be a great month for July. But to close out the summer movie season, we move to August, where Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem releases on August 4th. This is starring and produced by Seth Rogen, and if you've seen Invincible or The Boys, you already know what Seth Rogen being a part of the project means. This could be our first very bloody Ninja Turtles movie. The Ninja Turtles are always kind of kept in a kid-friendly sense, but I think with Seth Rogen being part of this project, he's always a champion for adult animation, and I think we could really be in for a treat if you're a Ninja Turtles fan. If it's anything like the tones of Invincible and The Boys, I am all in with Seth Rogen being a part of this. Now, I didn't know that much about Dune, but after watching part 1, I was super enthralled with the franchise. So Dune 2, releasing on November the 3rd, is a must-see movie of 2023. I think Denis Villeneuve really set up the groundwork of Dune Part 1 to pay off in Dune Part 2 to be action-packed, world-building, and great storytelling. Christopher Walken's going to be in this movie, which I think is just incredible in itself, but this also is going to have Austin Butler join the cast, and after what I've seen in Elvis, I'm really excited to see him play against Timothée Chalamet. And now that Timothée Chalamet is actually with Zendaya in this movie, we'll actually kind of see what Zendaya's part of the story is, because they held her back a lot in the first movie, and I think it'll be really fun to see where we go moving forward with this. And if you haven't gotten enough Timothée Chalamet in November, all you have to do is wait till December to watch Wonka finally release on December the 15th. This movie seems to be focusing on the origin of the chocolate-crazed man Willy Wonka and how he creates his chocolate factory. All we have is this one image of Timothy dressed like Wonka, but it already sold me on this movie, so I'm sure once we see a trailer to kind of get a vibe for what this is going to be, it's going to definitely be a movie that you have to see. I'm not really the hugest fan of the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory type world, but I think this movie does have the potential to be really awesome depending on the tone they set for it. You can now use this list as a guide on what to see in 2023, so make sure you like this video and save it, and comment and let me know if there's any other movies that you're anticipating, or if there's any that you think should be on this list as one of the huge movies to see in 2023. I would love to discuss with you in the comments down below. We're going to be reviewing all these movies throughout the year, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss those discussions, and I want to give a quick shout out to the Patreon homies that are supporting the channel and watching those full watch-alongs. I really appreciate you guys and love discussing all the movie stuff with you. While I know this list is a little bit late, I really wanted to be sure that the list of movies we were covering were really awesome blockbusters, and I really do think it's going to be fun to discuss all this stuff all throughout 2023. So here's to a great year of movies. Peace.